Hi everyone, it's Natalie and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing the Hispanic / Latinx Booktuber tag. I know it's been ages since this tag was created and it's a bit dead right now. I searched for the tag on YouTube and the last video was made like 3 months ago. But my point making this video is mostly just to make more like kind of get to know me videos before I really start rolling on the more traditional booktube videos. So that's kind of why I wanted to do this tag, so you guys could know more about me and stuff like that. So let's start with the questions. The first question is, what is your heritage? For me, that's a question with a more complex answer because I have a lot of things going on in my family. So mostly I identify with my Puerto Rican side of my family because I grew up in Puerto Rico. I was not born in Puerto Rico, but I was born in the States, but I spent like in the mainland. But I spent only like 2 months of my life in the States before my mom moved back to Puerto Rico. So I mostly identify with my Puerto Rican roots because it's from my mother's side. There's a lot of Puerto Rican heritage. But I also have a Dominican side because my grandmother, my dad's mother, was Dominican. So there's also that side of me, but I didn't feel like growing up, I didn't feel that attached to that side of me because my grandmother passed away when I was younger. So I never really got the chance to connect with her in that sense. And then as I got older, I was just fed a lot of like negative stereotypes about Dominicanness, which I now know is like total bullshit, but definitely it's part of what kept me away from that part of my heritage. Because like in high school, whenever my friends were like, oh, your Dominican side is showing, I would be like so ashamed of it. I no longer am, but I still feel like that disconnect. Born not so much of me thinking that it's inferior or any bullshit like that, but mostly not having been able to connect with it so much. And then on my dad's dad, my grandfather, I'm Peruvian on that side. So there's some indigenous Peruvian blood and heritage going on there, which I also don't connect to that much because I really didn't get to know the Peruvian side of my family. I didn't grow up with them. I didn't associate with them. And that's mostly because I was born in the state where the Peruvian side of my family lived. But then since my mom moved back to Puerto Rico, we didn't really stay in touch with the Peruvian side of my family. So there's three. Those are the main three heritage that I share: Puerto Rican, Dominican, and Peruvian. Also, a warning about why my answers to most of these questions will be fucking shit. Growing up in Puerto Rico, an island that has been incredibly Americanized and receives a lot of American media, it meant that growing up, even though of course there are things about me and interests that I have that are completely associated with growing up in Puerto Rico, there's also a lot of things that made it so it was more American centric, my interests. Like growing up, my mother wanted me to learn English, so she made me watch TV shows in English, and I eventually developed like an inclination towards English, and that meant that I read, everything I read was in English, everything I watched was in English, and that created a detach from my Puerto Ricanness, and I haven't really reclaimed that in any way other than with my love of Puerto Rican food. So my answers to a lot of these questions will be vague or unsatisfactory because of that detach that was born of like both feeling like obviously I'm Puerto Rican because I grew up in Puerto Rico surrounded by the Puerto Rican people, but at the same time there was a lot of American media that I consumed, and that made it less of me taking in part of my culture and heritage. And on top of that, I grew up in a family that wasn't like neither superstitious nor really devoted to their Puerto Ricanness, so there wasn't really that backup of people trying to encourage me to be like super Puerto Rican or whatever. That was like a long prelude to the rest of the questions, but it felt necessary to say. So the second question is, do you speak the language of your heritage? 100%. I speak Spanish. Like I said, I grew up in Puerto Rico. It's a bit difficult to grow up and be raised in Puerto Rico, especially by a Puerto Rican mother, and not grow up speaking Spanish. So I definitely speak Spanish. It's not the language I'm most comfortable with. I do find it difficult to speak only in Spanish, but that's also, again, part of the Americanization of the island and the fact that I went to, even though my mother wasn't middle class, I went to a very middle class high school, and so that meant that they greatly encouraged like bilingualism. So I have more vocabulary in English than I do in Spanish. Pero definitivamente si quisiera pudiera hacer estos videos en español, pero yo decido no hacerlo en español. Uno, porque la comunidad en Booktube es mucho más grande si hablas en inglés. Y segundo, because como acabas de ver, hago mucho code switching y se me hace más fácil mantenerme consistentemente en inglés, like hablando consistentemente en inglés, en vez de hablar consistentemente y solamente en español. Se me hace mucho más difícil mantenerme en español nada más. But I just wanted to show you guys that I can speak both. So there you have it, a little snippet of me speaking in Spanish. And I probably spoke even lower because I had to think through what I was gonna say and how to say it and whatever. Like if I'm in conversation with my friends from Puerto Rico, we code switch a lot. So we switch back from English and Spanish a lot. And if they have a long string of Spanish, I will answer in Spanish. But it alters whatever. The main point is bilingual life, which means hella code switching. 3, do you own any flags or decorations that represent your heritage? Personally, I don't own anything. Since I moved to Chicago, my dad and his wife have a lot of like Puerto Rican art on the walls, and they have like their Puerto Rican flag hats and stuff like that. And I do think we have a few flags that we need to replace because they're broken from going to all the Puerto Rican parades in Chicago. So there's definitely decorations that represent that in the house, but not really in my room specifically. I don't specifically own anything, but it's mostly because I feel like I don't have to. I feel like there's enough of that in the rest of the house that I feel comfortable not displaying any of it in my room. Question 4 is, who is your favorite author that shares the same heritage as you? I really had to think a lot about this question because the truth of the matter is that I don't read that many books by Puerto Rican authors, either from the island or born and raised in the United States. I really don't. I actually find it very difficult to find any books written by Puerto Rican authors. They're not really hyped. They're not really talked about. And I need to be a better Puerto Rican and start actually fucking looking for them. I'm just a lazy ass bitch. I prefer to just hear from BookTube or BookTwitter or Bookstagram recommendations from people. I don't really like doing searching and shit like that. But that's on me, and that's a problem on me, and I know it's a problem. And on top of that, on top of those issues, I'm a very picky reader. I have very particular tastes, and the authors that fall into my favorite categories and like all-time favorite categories have a very particular writing style, and the authors I have read that share my heritage don't really have that particular writing style that I enjoy. So it's difficult in general to be like, oh, that's my favorite author that shares my heritage. Like, it's not really that easy. But I guess if I had to answer, I'll use my Dominican heritage to answer. I definitely love Elizabeth Acevedo. Not obviously. I'm not Afro-Latina, but Elizabeth Acevedo is Dominican, so I can definitely connect to that. And when I read her books and read about the food and the culture and the religious influence, the aspects, all of that, I can definitely see connections with my heritage and with my culture and with my own experience. So Elizabeth Acevedo is definitely one of my favorite authors. The Poet X by her was fantastic. With a Fire on High was also really good. And I'm really looking forward to her next book, when I can't remember the name, but I'll put a picture of it here once I edit. Another author that I really like that shares my heritage that I will have already met by the time y'all are watching this video is Adam Silvera. I'm pretty sure he has Puerto Rican heritage. Pretty sure. Maybe I'm wrong and y'all can call me fake, but he's also one of my favorites. He can be kind of hit and miss for me. The first novel by him that I read, History Is All You Left Me, I kind of liked the concept, but I really hated the characters, so it wasn't really the book for me. But I loved They Both Die at the End. Cried like a little fucking bitch. Loved it. And I'm currently reading, and will probably be done with by the time you're watching this video, his debut novel, More Happy Than Not, and it's been great. So those two are definitely two of my favorite authors that share a part of my heritage. Question 5 is favorite book that takes place where you were born or the place of your heritage. I don't really have any favorite books that take place in Puerto Rico. It's just facts. None of my favorite books take place in Puerto Rico. And then I guess the only other books I could give of like, or take place where you were born. Technically, I was born in the States, in the mainland, or whatever. So those would just revert back to my answers about Adam Silvera and Elizabeth Acevedo. Because apart from that, really, there's just nothing. Nothing going on there. And part of that's because I wasn't really encouraged that much to read books by Puerto Rican authors when I was growing up in Puerto Rico. And in general, the publishing industry in Puerto Rico is fucking shit. So if you're not already like in that community and know what's going on, it's really hard for you to find out about it, and it's really hard for you to become invested. And on top of that, again, we have the thing of me having growing up basically not reading in Spanish unless it was for class, and the stuff I read for class I fucking hated. So it's very hard to say anything. And then we read also a lot of books. Like the only books I liked in high school that were written in Spanish were written by Spaniards. So there's just no winning for me, okay? Just no winning. Question 6 is favorite legend or lore from your heritage. Full disclosure, again, I grew up in a family that wasn't really superstitious. So they didn't really teach me a bunch of like lore or whatever. Like I grew up knowing about El Cuco, which is kind of like a monster like under your bed or in your closet or wherever it is. But it was vague, and vague enough that the trauma didn't last, so I barely remember anything about El Cuco. So there's that. But I do have a story about one of my best friends. We were in her car driving to pick up one of her friends who lives in a mountainous area in Puerto Rico. She doesn't really live in the middle of nowhere. Like she lives close to like a bigger city or whatever you want to call it. But her house per se was like up a mountain, and we had to cross this bridge. And my friend, and we were doing this at night. We were picking her up at night, and my friend was fucking terrified because this bridge, supposedly, I think there has been a sighting of La Llorona. I think it was La Llorona. I don't remember. I know that my friend was shitting her pants while she was driving, and I was just there being like, okay, you do you, honey, but you're not really getting a response from me. Obviously, since I grew up really not getting associations with that, I'm a skeptic. I don't really believe in any of it, and I never really did more research on more of those like folklore and stuff like that. So that's all I have to say to answer that one. Question 7 is favorite character that shares the same heritage as you. That would have to be Mateo. Is Mateo his name? I think his name is Mateo from They Both Die at the End by Adam Silvera. Mateo is definitely one of my favorite characters. He was so soft and sweet and adorable, and I loved him. He was a fucking mess too, but I just love my baby boy, okay? I loved him. He was great. I'm prone to liking really soft characters. They're my weakness. So, definitely Mateo. Although Rufus was great too, from They Both Die at the End. And again, like my favorite books, like also Xiomara from The Poet X, she was fucking amazing. Like I stan. If Xiomara were a real person, I would want her to be my best friend. No joke. Question 8 is, what is your favorite song by a singer that shares your heritage? That would have to be Ni Bien Ni Mal by Bad Bunny. Bad Bunny is my shit, okay? Bad Bunny is my shit. Listen, I used to not be into reggaeton, trap, all that shit, because I was young and naive, and again, raised to kind of look down on my own heritage. So I didn't really listen to it, but I grew up, learned, you know, whatever. And so I started listening to Bad Bunny, and I fucking love him with my whole heart. So the point is, Ni Bien Ni Mal is my favorite song because the first time I listened to it, I was like, oh, Bad Bunny's gonna be a favorite. He's gonna be a favorite. Question 9 is, what is a TV show or movie with Hispanic / Latinx representation that you love? Listen, the only answer to this, like the obvious answer to this, is Jane the Virgin. Listen, I know Gina Rodriguez is like, yikes. We know this, we've been new. But truly, there's nothing quite like Jane the Virgin. I love how it's like a telenovela, but it's in English, and it's fucking hilarious and weird and funny, and it's just my everything. I loved it. Like, I had a hate-love relationship with it. Not so much hate as disinterest relationship with it, but once I watched the last season, got back in the game, it's really one of my favorites. I adore it. For those of you who may not know, Jane the Virgin is a TV show kind of like inspired by telenovelas, which are soap operas, but in Spanish and for Hispanic / Latinx audiences. So it's basically a telenovela about this young woman who gets pregnant even though she's a virgin, and it's about the chaos that ensues once that happens. Question 10. What is something you wish people understood about your heritage? I feel like this question is a loaded one, but I'm gonna give like a light and soft answer to it. My answer to it would be, I wish other people understood why we love the coqui so much. The coqui is like a rainforest frog that's native to our island, and it has occasionally been moved to Florida, and people in Florida fucking hate the coqui, but coquis are like home to me. The sound, because they're little, not cricket, I don't know what the actual word for it is, okay? But the little sound that they make just sounds like home to me. It's everything. I love them. They're fucking great. And I wish people understood why we love coquis so much and why they mean so much to us, and why we think and why we associate so much the little sound they make with our island and stuff like that. So I think that's something I would say I wish people understood about my heritage. Question 11 is, what are you most proud about your heritage? 100% our food. Food, no questions, food. Puerto Rican food is my life. It's my everything. Having moved from Puerto Rico, I love it even fucking more because it's fucking amazing. Like, thankfully I moved to Chicago, which still has a pretty big Puerto Rican community, because if I had moved to a state without Puerto Rican food, I would be suffering, and I don't think I could make it. Okay, y'all? I don't think I could make it. Like, arroz con gandules, arroz y habichuelas, pasteles. Like, mofongo. Like, y'all don't understand, but food is my life in general. And Puerto Rican food, I cannot live without it, okay? I probably won't ever leave Chicago because I need access to my Puerto Rican food. Question 12 is favorite Hispanic slash Latinx booktuber. I forgot to mention this earlier in this video, but this tag was created by Bookish Babbles. I love her videos. She's great. She hasn't been posting it as much, which is unfortunate, but she's definitely a great booktuber and one of my favorite Latinx slash Hispanic booktubers. Another one would have to be Jessie from Bow Ties and Books. They are fucking amazing. I love Jessie with my whole heart. They are great, and if y'all aren't watching their videos, y'all need to get on that right now. Like, stop watching this video and go watch Jessie from Bow Ties and Books, okay? Like, please. Thank you. And then my last one would have to be Nikki from Saneoki. I don't know how to say her booktube channel name, but her name is Nikki, and she's really sweet and nice, and I really love her videos because they're very chill and just sweet, just very sweet. And I'll leave all of them linked down below so y'all can check them out. The last question, question 13, is to tag other Latinx slash Hispanic booktubers. I don't really know any. All the ones I know of have already done this tag. So if any of you have Latinx slash Hispanic heritage, then I tag you to make this video. Maybe we can revive it from the dead as it has been. Y'all, shit, I should have showed you guys this earlier, but this is a little plushie my stepmom has of a cookie. So this is kind of what they look like. I mean, in real life, they're really, really tiny. They're like this big. They're adorable. That's also one of the reasons why I love them so much, because they're cute as fuck. So I love really small animals and knickknacks and shit like that. So it's my thing. And this is full of like cat hair and dog hair because that's the life and struggle of owning 2 dogs and 1 cat. Anyway, I hope you could kind of hear that, because that's kind of like the sound that cookies make. They're great. I love them. Anyway, that's it for today's video. I hope this video helped you all learn a little bit more about me. So thanks so much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And if you want to follow me on any of my social media, I will leave that linked down below. So see you next time.